Hi everyone, I haven't done a tier list video in a while, and that's because last season I wasn't really playing a lot of Siege, because last season I wasn't really enjoying Siege. PC is overrun and still is by hackers and cheaters, and console is overrun by mouse and keyboard players and people that just straight up DDoS servers when they're losing. So it's been a great time. On top of that, Pro League scene is dying, so I just did not have a lot of interest in playing or watching it, but I forced myself to at the end of last season, and I've been playing it again a little bit this season, so I figured, yeah, it's time to do a tier list video since I missed the last season. So we're going to start off right away. We got S, A, B, C, D, E, and F tier. I'm rating these operators based on how useful they are in any given round. So don't get offended if I put your operator in a lower tier. I'm not saying they're a bad operator. I'm saying they're too niche. Their abilities are too specific. They're only useful in certain scenarios, not over the course of the whole round. So keep that in mind. I'm also a Plat I player. Or at least I was at the end of last season. I have yet to get ranked this season, so that's going to affect my decision making too. If you're higher or lower than me, obviously you're going to have different opinions, and it's going to be a slightly different meta for you. But let's start off. In F tier, we got Glaz, Tachanka, and Knock. If I had done a video last season, I would have put Knock in E tier because they gave her a temporary buff that increased her ADS speed when her Hell ability was active, but for whatever dumb reason, they decided to take that away, so back down to F Knock goes. Tachanka forces you to stay still. He's a meme, but for the sake of the newer players, I want to be serious. He's not actually a good operator. He is going to be overworked, he's going to be reworked soon, so hopefully he will be going up a few notches. Then we have Glaz, forces you to stand completely still to get that infrared effect through the scope, and they nerf the damage on the rifle, and there's also a sniper in the game that is a one-shot down now, so if you want to be a sniper, I don't see the point of picking Glaz. Moving on to E tier, we get Alibi. Her holograms aren't fooling anyone. They're super easy to spot. The only time they're useful is when you're putting them in a lane of fire to get pings on the enemies, but again, they're not really tricking anyone other than stupid or twitchy players. Then we have Amaru. If you use Amaru, you're going to yeet yourself through a window and probably land on a frost mat, get blown up by a Kapkan trap, and then get shot at by 5 people. All while your animation will let you get your gun up. And then we have Ash, which is super controversial. Pissed off a lot of people in the comments of the prior videos, and I'm going to continue pissing you off. Ash is a placebo effect. Every other soft destructor in the game can destroy more soft things than Ash can. And what I mean by placebo effect is basically because she has such little utility, she's the operator you pick when you just want to rush in there like a dum-dum and not worry about strategy or skill or utility or usefulness. She's sort of the pawn, right? Like, you just yeet her in there, and if she gets some kills, awesome. But if she dies, it's not a big deal. And so, therefore, you tend to falsely associate good ballsy plays with Ash when that isn't true. It's not Ash that enabled those ballsy plays. It's you. You had the confidence, and you took the risk, and it paid off. But you can do that with any other operator. It just feels nicer to do it with Ash, because if Ash dies, you're not really hurting your team strategically other than just one less person on the field with a gun. And then we have Vigil. I always thought Vigil was not that great. He's got a good gun and he's got impacts, but his ability, although it does make you visibly invisible to drones, it also gives them a little warning on their HUD, like a hot and cold system. And so the closer that drone is to Vigil, the more intense those little white lines are. So in a way, it doesn't exactly hide you from drones. It just obscures your exact position, but experienced players can still pinpoint your location. It just takes them a few extra seconds while alerting them that you are in a room or in the area. I've actually think I've snuck away from more drones without his ability on, so it's weird. And then we have Caveira, E-tier operator, because it's dependent on the attacking team being stupid and splitting up alone, even though they know there's a Caveira or could be a Caveira out there. Then we have a Goyo. I was thinking about putting him up higher in D tier just because he has seen some use in Pro League with area denial, but it seems for us regular plebs, more often than not, the Goyo shields are still just blowing up our own teammates than actual defenders. Then we have Warden, cool dude, super fancy, but unfortunately, he doesn't counter very many operators, and the operators he does counter aren't being used that often, such as Blitz that we're putting in D tier. A while ago, they nerfed the ADS speed for shield, so it takes longer to get your shield down and your gun up. So lost a lot of the momentum, a lot of the aggression, a lot of the bark, or a lot of the bite to his bark. And then we got Fuse. I think he's underrated, but I'm still putting him in D tier just because he's got a good gun, and yeah, his cluster charge can kill people like the hostages. But unfortunately, even with a coordinated team, sometimes it's just too difficult to corral and sheep herd the defenders where you want them to be to successfully kill them. Then we have Dokkaebi. Makes people's phones ring, but you have to be close to it to actually act on it and get a kill. And I don't like DMRs. The reason being, this is a game with a one-shot headshot, so damage is sort of irrelevant. The higher in the ranks you get, it's more about who gets that first headshot and who can control higher fire rates to mathematically get a headshot faster. So yeah, I don't like DMRs. So with her ability being kind of hindered by you needing to be close to it, and her DMR having an incredibly slow fire rate, I'm putting her in D tier. Then we have Kapkan. He's too easy to counter. Just look both ways before you cross the street, guys. It's not that hard. His ability is dependent on the attackers being stupid. Then we have Lion. Used to be S plus OP tier, but got nerfed a while ago, and he is going to stay in D tier. Does give you some information, but you can't act as quickly on it or get as confident and easy kills as you used to be able to. Then we have Rook. Don't let this D tier ranking stop you from picking Rook if you're a newer player to the game. He's an excellent player for excellent operator for newer players. You just put down a bag of bulletproof or bullet resistant body plates and pick them up. But like I said, sort of like with other operators, the higher you get in the ranks, the less effective he's going to be because you're getting more headshots more often. Then moving on to C tier, we have Castle. They actually gave him a little buff. They gave him the Shorty 12 gauge. I can't talk. The Shorty 12 gauge shotgun, which is really cool. Gives you a bit more versatility. You can open rotations, you can open hatches, or you can just use it as a gun in close range. But I don't think it's good enough to bump him up, at least for defense. I think those little shotguns are more useful on attack than they are defense. But moving on, we got Ella. You have to be closer to the Gersmots to actually get the maximum usage out of them if you want to engage the attackers while they're still all messed up. If you're too far, you'll still get the information out of it, but you won't get the kill out of it, and the attackers will know that Ella is probably coming. Then we have Finka, one of those 50-50 operators, reduces recoil temporarily and increases health when her Adrenal Surge is activated. Sometimes it's not useful though. You have to be really coordinated with your team. And again, when you're in higher ranks, headshots are everything. So even if you have extra health, people are still going to land headshots on you and you're still going to die. Then we have Kaid. You can electroclaw hatches, which is great. I don't think any other defender can really do that. And he's a decent substitute backup to like Mute and Bandit if those are banned or did. Then we have Montaigne. Get pretty much your human drone and an invincible wall of iron. You're the mountain. You can get some pretty sneaky plants by putting the shield on your back and then defusing and having someone like a Blackbeard stand up in front of you and cover you if anyone comes. But sometimes, you know, you're using Montaigne and you wish that you would just have another gun. Rather than a big shield when you just want to shoot at people. So yeah, Montaigne, C tier. Then we have Capitao, C tier. His smokes are cool, his fire bolts are cool. I think his fire bolts are more useful than his smokes, just because you can sort of temporarily shut down flanks as you push into a room. But I think there's better options, and I'm about to get into them. But before that, we have Ying, C tier. There's a 50-50 chance you are going to blind the entire attacking team and kill them all, and there's a 50-50 chance you're going to blind the defending team and kill them all. So you're just going to blind people indiscriminately of whether they're your teammates or not. You're just going to blind everyone and get them killed, which is a bad thing if they're attackers. on your team. And then moving on to B tier, we have Bandit. I would put him in A tier, but I got to keep in mind that Bandit tricking is kind of dependent on the skill and experience of the user. If you're a good bandit tricker, you're a pain in the ass to deal with, and attackers are going to have a very hard time getting through that wall that you are bandit tricking. But if you're just setting it down, it's basically just a mute. It's not a big deal, except now bandit is a 3-speed with a slightly better gun. Moving on, we have Doc, also in B tier. He can, B tier, where is Doc? There he is. He can heal himself, he can heal his teammates, he can heal down teammates, which allows defense and Doc to be a little bit more aggressive, to take risk, and as long as they were not killed, they can run back into cover, heal themselves, and then try again with nothing lost. Then we have Blackbeard, an operator in a game with one-shot headshots that has an ability / gadget that stops him from getting shot in the head. Very useful. Then we have Frost. If you have the welcome mat down and a defender watching the window, it's basically impossible for an attacker to move through that window. Then we have Gridlock, which is kind of like Capital that I was talking about earlier, that sort of flank denial, except unlike Capital, the track stingers are permanent. So you're not in a time window like you are Capital. You gotta throw down that firebolt, and then you have a set amount of like maybe 10 seconds where you can actually get something done. With Gridlock, you're gonna throw it down and it's gonna stay there. If they try to flank, you're gonna hear them trying to remove those track stingers or walking through them. Nomad, kind of the same way, except if a defender activates it, you have to be close to act on that and get the kill. So it's just pretty much a different Gridlock. I don't think it's worse. I don't think it's better. I just think it's a different, more aggressive version of Gridlock. For that reason, I'm also going to put her in B tier. And then we have Jackal, which used to be in B tier. Actually, I think he used to be in like S or A in my older videos, but then he got nerfed and got down to B, and then he got nerfed again this season, and or last season, or this, I don't know, and he's going down to C. They took away his shotgun, so he lost a lot of that versatility. Same thing with Mozzie. He used to be a B tier operator, but they took away his shotgun, so he lost his versatility, so he's going down to C tier. And then we have Pulse in B tier. A lot of amateur players will just use this to get a C4 kill, and then they'll never open the cardiac sensor again. But good players will use the cardiac sensor to continuously get information and relay that to their team as to the location of the attacking bad guys. And if the opportunity presents itself, you can use the C4 and then just continue to get information with the cardiac sensor. Then we have Smoke. You can stop last-minute attacking pushes in their tracks. You have a shotgun for close range and an SMG-11, which is difficult to master, but if you do, it's a headshot machine. So basically, Smoke just says no to attacking pushes. He's great. And then we have IQ. She's one of those operators that very subtly gets better over time, because the more electronic gadgets that are added to the defending lineup, the more powerful she becomes. So eventually, I think the more defending gadgets that are added, the higher I'm going to rank her. Even without her frag, she's still good. The last video I did, I put Kali and Wamai in B tier. I'm going to be keeping Wamai in B tier because he's basically an off-brand Jaeger. He's not as good as Jaeger, but him and Jaeger are the only ones that do that thing that they do where they stop grenades and launchables and stuff like that, throwables, from being used by the attackers. They just do it in slightly different ways, and I think Jaeger does it in a better way. But Kali is going to be going down to C tier. C tier is sort of like that 50-50. Sometimes they're useful, sometimes they're useless tier. Because with Kali, the thing is her sniper rifle is a gamble. It is a one-shot down, but you have to reload after every shot, so if you miss that shot, you are screwed. If you're going against a defender that actually has a gun with a higher fire rate, so all of them, and you miss that shot, you're dead. And once you fire that first shot and they hear that, smart defenders aren't going to peek again. Moving on, though, we're going up to A tier, I believe. We got Buck. Even without his grenade, still an A tier operator. He can do soft destruction from a distance or use his shotgun to shoot bad people in the face up close. We also have Sledge. Does the same thing, but with a big stick instead, and he can open more of it. The disadvantage being you really can't, I mean, you could for the meme, you can't really use his sledgehammer effectively in a gunfight, whereas you can do that with Buck and his shotgun. So with that trade-off, I think they're equal. Buck being he has no frags, Sledge being he can't really use his sledgehammer in a fight. Then we have Clash. Everyone hates her, but this is not a popularity contest. This is a tier list, and you hate Clash because she's so good. Basically, she shocks attackers, slowly chipping away at their health and slowing them down. And she's got a bulletproof shield in front of her. Very hard to kill. Not a lot of attackers directly counter her. So yeah, Clash, easy A tier operator. Then we have Jaeger, like I said, does the same thing as Wamai, slightly better and with a better gun. Then we have Mira, see on the other side of walls while attackers can't see you. You got a Vector with a high fire rate and a C4 and a secondary shotgun. Incredibly useful, just free intel. Then we have Mute. Stop drones, stop breaching charges or most breaching devices, stop any sort of attacker electronic that's being used. Then we have... Sorry, my cat's screaming in the background. Let me close the door. And then we have Twitch. I almost put her up in S tier because they changed her. Some people don't like it. Basically, she does less damage to attackers now. She only does 1, but she gets more of those little shock burst things, so she can take out even more defending gadgets, which is what she's used for. So you can basically dismantle an entire strategy by defense before the action phase even starts. And she's got an F2, one of the best guns in the game. Best guns in the game. And then moving on, we got Zofia. She's the real version of Ashe you should be using. She's got 2 explodey boys like Ashe that actually you can fire faster and detonate faster. She's got 2 concussy boys. She's got an LMG, and both her LMG and her assault rifle have ACOGs on them. And she's so damn angry, if you down her, she will literally just stand back up. Moving on to S tier, we have, let's see, all the hard breachers: Ace, Hibana, Maverick, Thermite, and pretty much every round you play in Siege, almost every, like 95% of them, you're going to need some form of hard breach. So I'm putting all of these operators up here. They basically do the same thing in different ways. So Thermite just makes a really big hole in hatches or walls. Maverick burns really tiny holes that you can shoot through or put them together to make a really big hole if all the other hard breachers die or are not there. Hibana shoots her little fidget spinners, and they can burn small portions of the wall off or blow a hatch off. And then you have Ace. He's sort of like the brainchild of Hibana and Thermite, and he's got that AK-12 with an ACOG on it now. He can also throw his Selma device, so he's a little bit more aggressive than the other hard breachers because it takes less time for him to actually deploy his gadget and get his gun back up. And because it detonates sequentially, you can actually immediately start putting pressure and rounds into the site or room that you are pushing before the detonation is even fully complete. And yeah, Ace is awesome. Moving on to the other operators that I haven't placed yet. Valkyrie, easy S tier operator. If you know all the good hiding places for those cameras, information is invaluable, and it's very difficult for the attackers to find it sometime. Thatcher used to be S tier. I want to keep him there, but the thing is with Twitch being buffed and other operators being added now, I don't think he has as much influence as he did before. I'm really struggling. If there was like an A+ tier, like something between S and A, that's where I'd put him. But I'm going to put him in A for now. But yeah, Thatcher is closer to that S tier than some other operators, I think. And then we have Echo, also an S tier operator. You can stop plants mid-animation. You can scout with the drones. You can disrupt the enemies. He's an amazing operator. And then we have Yana. Her holograms are actually convincing. They're indistinguishable from the actual player. You can pull together some pretty cheeky strategies where you distract someone with a hologram and then another teammate kills them, or push the hologram in there first to get information and then push in behind it and get the kill. but requires a little more coordination and it isn't always useful. So that's that 50-50 C tier. Then we have Legion, my boy, who used to be S tier. We're going to be knocking him down all the way to C tier. His goo mines got nerfed. They don't do that initial damage anymore. They just do the poison tick damage, so you have to be close to them if you really want to get the true effect off of it. If you're too far, the attacker isn't going to take any damage, and they have all the time in the world to get it out of their leg. Then we have Maestro. He's got gadgets that shoot laser beams and are bulletproof, and he has an LMG with like 1,000 rounds. He's still a clutch master even without the ACOG. Then we have Melusi. I'm kind of struggling where to put her. I compare her to Ella in a way because she's sort of that like disruption / area denial. But I think she's more useful than Ella. So yeah, I'm gonna put Melusi in B tier for now, because even if you're not close to those banshees and you're unable to act on them, they're still gonna slow the attackers down more than I think a Gersmot mine would, especially if you position them in difficult to reach spots, or put them in an area where they have to turn their back to a line of sight to get them. So yeah, Melusi B tier for now. Then we have Oryx. Last season I didn't like him too much. I like him a little bit more now. So they gave him a nerf or a buff. He used to take 10 damage when running through a wall. Now only takes 5. But the thing is, you still have that animation when you run through a wall. So if you're trying to surprise attackers, you make a lot of noise and you have to go through an animation to get your gun back up. And if they have even decent reaction times, they're going to kill you before your gun is back up. And you're not really going to use him to do soft destructions and set rotations because you take damage. There's a ton of other defenders that have impact grenades and shotguns and stuff to do soft destruction with. So Oryx isn't for that. He's a risk for running through walls. So really the only consistent use you get out of him is knocking down a Montaigne, but Montaigne isn't really going to be played every single round. So with that in mind, I'm going to put him pretty low. I'm going to put him in D tier. He's not good enough to be the 50-50 C tier, but he's not as bad as some of these other operators, at least. Oh, excuse me. At least I think. With that being said, that's about it for my tier list. If you think I'm wrong, I know a few of you are going to be mad about Ash. Go ahead and fight me in the comments, or go to twitch.tv/hideunleashed, where I just started streaming yesterday, actually, and you can tell me I'm wrong to my face. Like, subscribe, and smash that notification bell. Have a good day. I'm going to go back to sleep.